Hi, welcome to the CCW Safe podcast. I'm Rob High, joined by my partner, Phillip Naman. And once again, we've got Katie Lawson on, gracing us with her presence. And we'll continue on and finish up her story. So thanks for coming back, Katie.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, Katie, on our last one, we were talking about what physically happened to you. You were at a traffic stop. For those of you who haven't seen that one yet, you're at a traffic stop. You were assisting another agency. Unbelievable story about how these people were talking to you, and they ended up being the bad people. Well, they already were bad people, but they ended up proving it later that evening by shooting 26 rounds with a high-powered rifle at you at close range, unprovoked.
Yes, sir.
Which is the definition of ambush. And so one of the things that Rob and I really want to talk about is your mindset. You've lived through one heck of an ordeal, high powered rifle, 26 rounds, impacted 6 times, dark, alone, just about. If you could paint a really bleak scenario, I think you checked all the boxes. You got what bad things could possibly happen to Katie tonight. It's like, yeah, we got them all. Okay, good. So, yeah. But God was with you, and you lived through that. But tell us about just in your mind, like you said in our last show that the sounds cut out, but walk us through just from the point of, hey, there's a guy, I wonder what he's doing. Just what happened in your head, your thought process.
Okay. So initially, I think I kind of detailed it when I stopped, the shooting starts taking place. The initial first response is the shock factor. You feel like you freeze for a second thinking, is this really happening? And then immediately after that is when I kick into the fight mode. So I've been asked in the past, why didn't you just drive out of the line of fire? Because you got, flight, fight, or freeze. So in my thinking of that, and I will address that just so nobody has to wonder, just because it is a question I've been asked. So I did not drive out of the line of fire because, one, it was not my go-to first response. My first response was fight back, get your gun out, shoot back. Second, I had already had the car in park, so finding that magic button at the time, which was on the floorboard to initiate my gear shift and drive out of the line of fire, that was just going to take too much time. So that's why I went with the fight response. Mm-hmm. And after that initial freeze, like, is this really happening? I remember thinking, this guy's trying to kill me. There was no doubt in my mind. The gun's pointed right at my face. He is trying to kill me. I've got to do something to save my life. And if I don't shoot back, that's what's going to happen. He's going to kill me. So that's when I went into the reaction mode, get your gun out, start firing back. As I'm doing that, I remember, they say that so many things go through your head in an instant. So I remember being able, as I'm getting my gun out, being able to think several things through my mind. I remember thinking, okay, get your head out of the window. He's going to take it off with the round. I also remember I didn't actually see the bullet, but I remember the bullet impacting the front windshield and glass flying towards me. I can remember feeling all the bullets whizzing by me. It was just like very chaotic inside the car. I can remember things just whizzing by me and the car just feeling very chaotic. So
I think that 26 impacts would be chaotic. I think, yeah.
It was very chaotic.
I think that's a minor understatement, but we'll go with that.
So I remember just being able to feel all these things and think all these things, even though it happened within a matter of seconds. And I can't give you an exact number of seconds, but I would say less than 30 seconds by the time he started shooting and ran away. But as you had already mentioned, I got the tunnel vision, the auditory exclusion. I didn't hear one of my rounds go off. And the time distortion, it did happen to me because, again, I was able to think all these different things as it's happening rapidly. So did I cover your question? I know that was kind of long.
That is. The other thing is the exclusion. So in situations, maybe all of us have had a scrap or two, but I remember being solely focused on that person that did this, that was the number one thing, was I was going there. And I think that's what
Yes.
with you too, is like, I'm getting that guy.
Yes, I'm
there's
gonna try to shoot him.
there
I'm
is
gonna shoot back
nothing-
definitely and try to get him.
yeah, there is nothing, you know, I'm gonna have to be physically stopped to stop that. And unfortunately you were shot in the legs and you weren't able to do that. But I mean, it was just like the intent switches from, I can't believe this is happening, to all of a sudden I'm putting an end to this right now.
Yes.
And that's where you were focused on him and tried to go after him down the fence line. Wish you would have got him.
Oh, me too. That's another segment of having to get past that part.
Yeah. So how old was this person?
18.
18. And
Mhm.
the family was illegally in the country.
So mom and dad were both immigrants. The dad was illegal. The mother had a visa to be here, and it was not a work visa, so I'm not really sure what the visa was, but she had a visa to be here. And then the two boys were born here.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so you got an 18-year-old who's growing up I just can't imagine. Anyway, it's a whole different mindset that somebody would just say, hey, I got an idea. Let's go kill 2 police officers so our dad doesn't go to jail for drunk driving.
Yes.
Let's do the risk cost analysis here. No,
Exactly. And I have a little back history of the 18-year-old if you want it.
Sure.
As far as, so he was part of a gang here, Southside Locos. He was not an active member of the gang, so he wasn't really playing the whole gang attitude, or not attitude, but he was not a active member who was running around with the gang. He was just an associate of the Southside Locos. So the night of the
biatch.
exactly. So the night of the shooting, his dad was actually going to go to the strip club. His dad asked him to drive him to the strip club and then driving home. I'm sure he was going to plan on drinking, so he wanted the son to drive him to the strip club. The son actually, and this was told to the FBI during the study, the son actually did not like his father. He described it as hating his father, and he thought it was disrespectful that his father was going to the strip club, so thought it was disrespectful to the mother. So he told him he would not take him. So at the point he's coming home drunk, driving drunk. So the son kind of internally takes that on as it's his fault because he told his dad no, he wouldn't take him. And so at the point they were in the front yard, he knows that he's going to go to jail and be deported probably. And so he basically says that blood's thicker than water, and he knows if his dad gets deported, he's not going to have the money to support the family anymore. So that's at that point he decides he's going to try to take our lives to get his dad out so his dad can work and provide money for the family. Very senseless.
He came up with that great wisdom all on his own.
All on his own. Yep. Don't really think he had a plan after the point of killing the deputy and I, but that was part of the plan.
Well, the plan is to stay in the States. So if you're in jail for attempted murder, you're in the States longer. You're not deported. So that's much better plan all the way around. It's ambush, the most deadliest thing. We've seen a uptick on this. What, in the last 3 weeks, Rob?
Yes.
These officers being ambushed.
This year has been horrible. You know, we did the deal where Gary and I went down to Florida and did the Retired Sergeants Association with NYPD, and you know, they just had 2 officers killed. They were able to keep
a young guy, I think a 21-year-old, right?
Yeah, it was just
Wow.
just horrible. And you know, it's one of those that law enforcement feels that everywhere. You know, it's not just, and it's just part of that fraternity. You get you get the good and the bad. You know, you get a Rodney King incident, and that was a California thing, and I'm telling you, police officers felt that all across the country. The blowback from that came back on them all across the country. You get a police officer that's dirty, that steps out of line. It stains everybody. And Katie and I were lucky enough to work at an agency that really does do a remarkable job at policing themselves. I've always felt very strongly that if you can't keep your own house in order, you should never be allowed to go do that to the general citizenship. You shouldn't be able to do that to the population. So I had a tremendous sense of pride to get to serve where I served. It was just one of those that, I was in the police academy when the Oklahoma City bombing happened, the murder bombing occurred. And my class was activated for a portion of that to provide scene security. And to see the community support, the outpouring of support during that incident, and just absolutely solidified my commitment to what I was doing in the town I was doing it in. And it was a point of pride for me because I grew up here in the Metro. I've been here my whole life.
You look a little like a city boy.
But like a city boy. But it's one of those, and Oklahoma City is not like a city if you've been here. So
I heard you say Metro.
Yeah.
It's just one of those that when somebody gets hurt, it hurts everybody as well. So it was a remarkably emotional response that night in Katie's case. I mentioned previously that the response was so overwhelming, and Katie touched on it. There was other agencies, everybody that could come came. But they jammed the streets up so bad that they really couldn't get her out in the ambulance.
The ambulance, yeah.
I don't even know if you remember, Katie, but you went through yards.
I've been told that one of our officers actually took the driver's seat of the ambulance and drove me through yards.
You sure did. So yeah, you make it work however you make it work.
Yeah, because everybody got out of their cars looking for the guy, so the cars were just locked or open, no keys in.
Everywhere.
Yes, everywhere. Every canine in the city was coming because you can only run those dogs for so long, and they need a break. And you've got a handler and a dog, and then you've got cover guys with them, and you're going backyard to backyard and through creeks and everything else you can think of. So
let's put an end on this. On one of the things, what punishment did these cretins get?
So originally, they all pled not guilty, and
I barely got here. I don't know nothing.
Nothing. Didn't do anything.
It's not my magazine. It's not my.
Yeah, we were out in the front on a traffic stop. So they originally all pled not guilty, got bound over for trial, and the trial took place a little over a year after the incident. So up until I think it was about couple weeks before the actual trial was to begin, the older boy, the actual shooter, came forward and said that he committed the crime. He acted alone. His family did not know about it.
Was he in jail the whole time?
Yes. So the younger brother and the older brother, both in jail the entire time for about a year. And then mother had actually bonded out, so she was not in jail the whole time. So as the older boy comes forward, sorry, go ahead.
She left her kids in jail.
Yeah, great mom. Left her kids there, looking out for number one. So anyways, as he pleads guilty, the other two, they know nothing about it, didn't do anything. So they go to a jury trial. It was a week-long jury trial, which another credit to my department and the Blue family. And just to kind of touch on that digress a little bit, that being 4 years on, you hear about a Blue family, but you really don't know what it means until times like these. That is when I realized what a great family my police family was, and how much they backed me and supported me through this whole entire incident. But anyways, went to a jury trial. Officers packed the courthouse out, so that was nice to have all that support there with me. went through a week long, and at the end of the jury trial, the jury found the mother not guilty, so they acquitted her. And then they found the little brother guilty and sentenced him to 3 years. So that was before the
What did they try and
sentence came
charge
down.
mom on? This accessory after the fact?
They actually charged her with shooting with intent as well. Just because they had charged a conspiracy charge, but it got wrote up wrong. So the judge actually had to kick it out because it was not the correct conspiracy charge, but they continued on with the shooting with intent with her. So.
But because she didn't physically shoot, then they couldn't put her away.
Yeah, and talking to the jury, we got to talk to the jury afterwards, and they said that the citizen that had the most evidence against her, the one who actually saw her approach the car and then kind of fade back towards the house, the patrol car, they said they did not find him very credible, so they didn't feel like they could find her guilty because of that witness. They didn't find credible.
But he's also the guy who said, I saw him run in the back door, and that was true, right?
I think it was actually two different ones. We
Oh.
had one that looked out the back window, and then the other one is the one who saw her approach the vehicle. So they did find him guilty, but again, only gave him 3 years. And so all this took place before we actually sentenced the shooter. So as you can imagine, at the end of the trial, when one gets 3 and one gets acquitted and nothing's happened to the other one just yet, very disheartening.
Yeah.
I think that
They wonder why we drink, right?
Exactly. Yeah, drowned our sorrows. But anyways, when it come time for the sentencing of the shooter, it was by Judge Deason, I didn't know him at the time. He was the one that presided on the case, but came to know him afterwards in my work in Impact with doing a lot of search warrants. I became friends with him afterwards, but he was fabulous. He sentenced the shooter to life plus 10 years. So in Oklahoma, life is 45 years. Of course, it's 85% crime. So he went in the round at 18, and his first chance of parole will be around the age of 60. So after that happened, I kind of let the other go, and I felt justified then. And I have a statement read by Judge Deason that kind of him talking to the suspect, and it was great. He is very pro law enforcement. We actually lost him about 3 years ago to a stroke, but he was an awesome judge.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. We need some more of those. I like the judges that have like, a gallows tattoo. I think that's just a good sign.
Yeah. And wears their cutoff shirt in the courtroom so everybody can see it.
That's right. They're packing their own piece. Yeah, that's the guy.
Now he did do that.
Absolutely.
He didn't let it show, but he always had his gun in the courtroom.
That's pretty good. So, well, just last night I was Tuesday night. I was training with this guy, and we're talking about firearms and stuff like that. And he was saying, well, a knife's way better. I'm like, well, I don't know. There's so many differences. Can you pull your gun before you pull your knife? It's like, well, and my point to him was ambush is what wins. If you're 6 feet away from me or 3 feet away from me and you don't know what I'm doing and I pull a firearm and shoot you, you didn't get, it's the ambush. It's action beats reaction every time. And it's the person who takes the impetus. So here you are, you're looking like you're at the stage of, hey, there's a guy, crap, incoming rounds. There's nothing else going on with that. And I think people need to realize when someone says, well, the keyboard warriors, keyboard commandos. So, I have, my head's always on a 360. I mean, Rob, you hear this stuff, right? I'm always looking around. I'm always aware of my surroundings. Like, no, it's an ambush, ding dong. There's a guy laying in a ghillie suit on a hill.
You're not seeing that person.
Yeah, they're in the shadow. They're doing this. They're hiding. This is a nefarious act coming upon you.
They come up from behind. I mean, you don't get to pick the time and the place.
We had
a cop.
Couple of police officers killed sitting down in a diner. This is under Obama's time frame, with these two psychos, and then they had a shootout in Walmart later that day.
I think that was Las Vegas, wasn't it?
Could have been, but I mean, you've got your back turned, you're talking to somebody, and somebody who's nefarious has an ambush. So I guess my point is that you can't you can't see everything. You're not God. You're not omnipresent, omniscient.
No.
You can't see everything coming. And so as an officer like yourself, you can't feel bad that you were ambushed. It happened. And, throw this out there. They didn't shoot at you because you were a woman. They shot at you because you were a cop, and he wanted to go kill the
Yes.
other cop, right?
Yes.
He thought that was you. He didn't know. So again, he's an idiot. So he's shooting at the job. He's shooting at the person in that car.
Yes.
And there's nothing you did to provoke it. And you did everything you could to stop it. I think the firing, like you said, your car's in park. Putting it, you can run into a telephone pole and sit there and take more shots. I mean,
Exactly.
you did everything right. I think you may have had
Thank
some
you.
good training.
I did have some great training.
There's so much of that is mental, though. The determination,
on that.
the will to freaking live, the will to win. And it's why I talk about, I may not be able to put my body through the same physical wear and tear that I used to, but I can still get training repetitions mentally. I can still imagine that. My training sergeant told me this. I tried to pass this on to kids that I trained, and it was one of those that, sit there and just think about the scenario, run yourself through it, put yourself through it before you're ever there for real. And honestly, if you're going to do it the right way, put yourself in the worst case scenario, and how are you going to respond coming out of that? So there are so many different things that we don't have control of, but there are things that we do have control of. And if we've prepared our mind for that, you're just that much closer to stepping towards a victory there. So
it's like you said, we can't control being ambushed, a true ambush. Now, can you be negligent? Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about that. This was an ambush. You're driving down the street and somebody in the shadows opens fire on you. Those are ambushes. You've got and we had a couple of sheriffs in Southern California. They're sitting in their car filling out the reports. A guy walks up, hey, how you doing? Boom, right? And they live, thank God. But those are things that happen to you. It's how you react that your training kicked in. Rob, you trained her. She did exactly what she's supposed to do. She put rounds on the target. And of course, just like always, they run like cowards. Did I say that again? Did I say that criminals were cowards? We got some mail on that.
We got some negative feedback from that, Phil. You're going to get me in trouble.
Saying they're cowards?
Yeah.
Oh, no. That's exactly what Judge Deason actually called him as well out in the courtroom.
Yeah, I'm in good company.
You are. Yeah, he's a great guy.
It was such a brilliant statement that he made at the end of that. It was perfect.
It was awesome. Yep.
We lost a true friend when he passed away. He was so good. And like Katie said, the guys that were doing, drug warrants and things like that got to have an awful lot of interaction with him, even at his home, catching him after hours. And he'd agree to meet you anytime, day or night, just come by.
Sign that warrant.
You wake him up, he tells you to come over.
Yep.
You get over there, he tells you to come in the house as he's reading it and signing it. He was awesome.
Yeah, he and his wife were just absolutely just wonderful to law enforcement. And I've seen him be really harsh on law enforcement when he didn't feel like they were performing the level that they should have been performing. So
they have to have a standard. And
yes.
When guys are slipping, like we've talked about before, the sloppy things and or malintended charges and stuff like that. I'm glad he's holding that account, because we, as a civilian, we need to be able to trust our legal department. We need to know that if, we just saw so much malfeasance happen with the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. It's like, what is that district attorney doing? It made no sense. We want to know that the people who are in our legal system are doing the right things for the right time, And we're seeing that that's not happening. So when someone gets called onto the carpet for misbehaving, or, I think they absolutely should be. They have to be held accountable, or we can't trust our legal system. And we want to trust our legal system.
No, he was very fair. And like I told you before, that they were all charged with a conspiracy charge. And he actually looked at the state statute and realized it was not the right conspiracy charge. So he felt like he had to dismiss it. So he did the right thing in dismissing it because it was not the right charge, even though it was kind of detrimental to my case, but he did the right and fair thing. And I can appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what he had to do. Okay, Katie, what would you say to a graduating class of rookies entering Oklahoma service? Just come fresh out of the academy.
All right. So Rob actually kind of touched on a little bit. I was going to jump in there when he's talking about the scenarios, because I do remember during the academy them telling you to run the scenarios through your head. So I did that often. I ran the scenarios. What if I show up on a domestic, they come out with a gun? I ran all these different scenarios. Now, did I ever trump one up that big? Probably not. Nope. So that was a new one. So when
let your imagination be your guide.
Exactly. So never imagine the one I actually went through. But now that I tell them, now that you've got me telling you this story, you imagine yourself locked down, pinned down in a car. What are you going to do? You play that scenario through your head. And so that's a bit of information that I pass on, was passed on to me, and I pass it down. But also when I speak to them, because I do get to speak to the academy, one of the biggest things I tell them about is and y'all have touched on this already, the mental toughness, mentally prepared to face the worst, and the resiliency part of it, being able to bounce back from life circumstances that seem totally overwhelming at first. And the mental toughness part is just that if you get into a fight, no matter what it is, don't give up. As long as you are there and you're capable, keep on fighting no matter what. You've got to learn to be mentally tough and to never accept defeat. And I give them a couple quotes I like from Grossman's books. And I can't remember the exact quotes, but it's about not being the toughest or the biggest, but I have a big heart. And as long as you've got the heart and the will to survive, you will, until the Lord calls you up. You have the mental capability to survive something like this.
Yeah, you can't tap out and start over on the street.
No tapping out. Nope. You keep on fighting until you can't anymore. And by that time, you won't know.
Phil, they did something, and you'll have to remind me, Katie, how long it had been, because you went to the hospital that night. They had you there for a good little while, actually. But one night we all went up and we held line up at the hospital. So you just got your entire third shift shows up. I don't remember who it was that they even had a lectern there so that we could have a proper lineup. And it was so cool because at the very end of the whole thing, Katie grabs the radio and she puts all of third shift 10-8 available for service. It was pretty cool.
It was awesome and emotional. For me, it was emotional because not only had y'all not seen me since it, but you did a little bit in the hospital and the ER emergency room, but that was the first time we all got as a shift again. I got to see you all got to see me, and we were all good. So for me, it was emotional. I wanted to see y'all as much as you did me. And it just brought us all back together. It was really cool.
I think the other thing that we touched on in our last episode that Rob was when that evening from the hospital, she was able to speak and so everybody could hear that she was okay. And I think that was an amazing thing.
Yes.
Well, I'm telling you talk about renewed vigor to just keep searching. You don't get tired in a thing like that. It's pretty crazy.
Oh yeah, you're motivated.
And we are at a loss. We have no earthly idea what's going on with Katie. It's a super, super personal thing for me. The very, very first recruit I ever trained died in the line of duty. His name is Jeffrey Rominger, amazing man. And he he lost his life in a vehicle pursuit. So there's that loss. I had a classmate that was killed in the line of duty. And you go into that profession with the understanding that that can happen. So we are just a bundle of nerves out there searching through the darkness, and you don't have a clue what's going on at the hospital. And then for Katie to key up, that should be SOP for anybody that's injured in the line of duty. If they're good to go, even with injuries, if they're going to be okay, let everybody know that they're going to be okay. That was such a shot in the arm for everybody that was out there in the field that day. I just can't tell you how emotional that is when it's somebody that's family, and I keep saying she's my spare daughter. So
I'll claim you. And to add a little bit to Rob, I will say, as he's telling you, I also had some other officers later down the road tell me that when I got loaded up into the IMSA truck, that I looked really pale, and they honestly thought that I was going to lose my life that night and that they were never going to see me again. So as he's saying that, they said the same thing. When they heard that radio traffic, it was one of the best things they could have heard.
Awesome. Now let's put a bow on this. Tell us about your recovery. Now, your running career after being shot twice in the leg and once in the calf. Tell us about that.
Okay, so spent 3 days in the hospital. And after that, I think we talked about it maybe on the other one, there were several visitors, so they wanted to kick me out of the hospital. They were getting overran and overloaded. So I had to go live with my mom. I lived on my own, but I had to go live with my mom so she could take care of me because I couldn't walk or get around.
What was worse, getting shot or going back home?
Oh, goodness.
Ty? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit, because I was one of those people, once I moved out, I'm not going back. But no, my mom was good to me. She took care of me. My grandparents come down. I had to have home health care come out every day, clean wounds, and treat them just so they didn't get infected. It took me a while, about a month, to get back up on my feet to where I could walk again, and still that was with a walker. But made a full recovery. It took a while. It took 4 months of being off totally, kind of recovering. And then I was able to go back light duty after 4 months. And then after 6 months total of being off the streets, I went back to patrol. So able to physically, capably recover from everything. I do still have shrapnel and metal lodged in my body in all different kind of areas. A couple of those I can feel. They're kind of making their way to the surface. Doctors told me I could be 60 and still have metal coming out of my body. But other than that, just the kind of like I explained earlier, kind of one side gets tired faster than the rest, and then the metal in my body. I feel pretty good. I'm doing good.
But you've actually been able to run marathons since this.
Ran marathons, never ran one before, but it's always been on my bucket list. So after this, I decided to get on that bucket list.
Check off things a little faster.
Tomorrow. Yes. So got on that bucket list, and I've ran 3 marathons. Now, I am not the fastest, so I'm not going to brag about a time.
Well, you're the fastest with 2 Forrest Gumps and a calf shot.
There you go.
Oh, congratulations.
So, got some marathons under my belt. Thank you.
Katie, you got any takeaways for us?
The biggest thing is, and this is something I tell the recruits as well, that I tell this, and when I go to speak around the nation, one, I'm very thankful to God for saving my life that night. I have to give him the credit every time, because without the Lord, I wouldn't be here. The other is to spend time with your friends and family. Make sure they know you love them. Tell them you love them, because we are not promised tomorrow, and we never know when our last day is going to be. So that's very important to me, is just making sure those loved ones know that you love them. And then the last that I just touched on is just learn to be mentally tough. You can survive things. We're all going to face adversity in life. But as long as you're mentally tough and you know that you can make it through it, if you've made it through it here, I think you can make it through it in real life. And just the resilience part of it. We're going to get knocked down. Again, we're going to face adversity, whether it be in our professional life or personal life. But look at that adversity as a chance to overcome. Don't look at it as a setback, and don't let it change who you are. Keep who you are in your heart and keep on moving forward.
Can't say it any better.
Pretty good. How about you, Phil?
How can I top on that? I'm just going to leave that there.
Okay, I cannot thank you enough for sticking with us today. I absolutely love you, little lady. You are so special to me. So
I love you too, and it's
cannot
my
thank you.
honor to be here.
Yeah. Again, thank you all for tuning in again. We appreciate all of our members out there. As always, you are more than welcome to give me your questions, comments, suggestions, critiques.
That's for me.
Phil.
You can feed those over to me too. So
And you
I'll
can send
take 'em.
those directly to me at rob@ccwsafe.com. So we thank you all and tune back in next time. See ya.
God bless.